More coming up now in our press preview with journalist and writer Nabila Ramdani, and also businessman and entrepreneur John Smith. Thanks for being with us again. Going inside the papers now, page 2 of the Mail. It's down at the bottom there, which I suspect after the Commons vote might be more prominent. I'll just move it down slightly. Anger over Miliband's Palestine demand. There's a controversial motion to be discussed or voted on to recognise the state of Palestine. Pretty controversial stuff.
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I think I've seen. I was watching Sky News all day today, and you had a Tory MP, Mr. Duncan,
Alan Duncan,
who actually said that quite rightly that Britain has a historical role in sorting out the problem and has a moral duty to recognise the state of Palestine, not least of all because it has so much to do with shaping the Middle East as it is, and therefore, you know, it has this moral duty to recognise the state after all these years of, you know, the UK, Britain recognised Israel in 1948. And it's about time that, you know, the international community recognised Palestine. And if Britain, who is at the origin of the problem, as it were to lead the way in that sense, then a lot of the EU countries who do not recognise Palestine at the moment will follow suit, as it were.
The Israeli ambassador, one imagines, might have a slightly different assessment of the situation.
My view is it was right to recognise Israel, and it's right to recognise Palestine.
Well, it's a two-state solution.
I think, yes, I think, you know, that's at the moment it's the best solution that we've got. But I think possibly the story is alluding to the fact that possibly Labour MPs are looking at this as a motion of personal conscience rather than a political instruction, and I think they may be. I think
they'd like a free vote.
I think what the paper's trying to allude to here is Ed Miliband saying, "You've got to vote this way," and a lot of people say, "Well, for me, it's a matter of heart." I think that's what it's trying to say.
What happens if they do vote for it?
Well, I think it will be, of course, it's just backbench business at the moment, but it will have a historical significance. There's 130 countries in the world out of 160 that at the moment recognise the state of Palestine. Out of the EU members, only countries who, like Hungary, Slovakia and Poland, recognise Palestine, and they did so before joining the EU, the Union. And so if Britain did recognise Palestine, that would, you know, quite a significant thing.
I think that we should. The only caveat for me would be, I think Hamas would have to stop being a terrorist group and come and join the rest of the world.
OK, well, that's recognising Palestine. What about recognising Scotland? It's back to the Telegraph, because on the right-hand side there, Cameron could still lose Union, says Brown. Of course, Gordon Brown speaking on our programme with Dermot Murnaghan this morning. There's still a lot of political play here on fulfilling those promises that were made at the time of the referendum.
I think Cameron's been quite cute here, really. I think look, we just said before the break, there's going to be a sizable political map change here. I mean, UKIP could grab, I don't know, I'm guessing now, and all bets could be off if Reckless wins, of course, you know, in a couple of weeks' time at
Rochester and Strood.
And Strood. I can see them getting half a dozen seats.
Sunday Times this morning had polling suggesting it could be up to 25.
I think that's a bit of a euphoric sweep, personally. And I can see the Liberals hanging on to 20-odd seats. I know there's a doomsday scenario out there, but I can see them hanging on to some of that. Now, the interesting thing for me is, while everyone's looking there, the enormous swing back from what happened in the vote up in Scotland is that the Scottish public are sizably backing the SNP. So if they pick up all 29, 30 of those seats,
a lot of Labour MPs in trouble.
Lots of Labour MPs are in trouble, and that's what this story, I think, is beginning to allude to.
Yeah, and of course, the status of Scotland didn't end with the independence vote, and if anything, it opened it up even more.
That's right.
It's more sad news, of course, regards the hostages. We had Barbara heading Alan's widow at this special service tonight, but also we've had another video released concerning John Cantley's release. And there just seems to be no end to the sort of horror the families have got to go through with all this being played out so much in the public domain.
Yes, absolutely. And this is highly cynical but effective communication, the way they use the media to effectively draw in the enemy as they view it. And, of course, the impact of a new video like this, effectively where you see a captive trying to deter, quoting from articles effectively have published in the mainstream media, to warn against further Western intervention in countries like Iraq or
Yeah.
indeed
Although
it's
quite
not only-
clearly
it's-
speaking under duress when one looks at the way that
Indeed.
But it's not only
Yeah.
aimed at the West as well. I mean, there's Syria and that whole Iraq swathe is there's so many groupings there, so they're talking to each other. It's a variable protagonist ground.
Thank you for the moment. More coming up in half an hour, of course, and we'll have all the latest for you at the top of the hour. Stay with us here on Sky News.